And again, hello from the heart of Europe. UA English broadcast continues delivering you the truth about the Russian invasion in Ukraine. This is the 20th day of the war. Nick Starkov here, and continue to the news. And the first news will be this one. Over 13,000 soldiers. General Staff of Ukraine has updated data on Russian troop losses. Now on screen you see new figures. They indicate losses in personnel, and you see data on tanks, armored combat vehicles, artillery systems and rocket launchers, anti-aircraft systems, planes and helicopters, trucks, patrol boats, ships and other types of ships, all systems in unmanned aerial vehicles. However, I have to note here that this count is complicated due to the intensity of shellings and fightings. And responsibility for all the crimes Russia has done in Ukraine will be inevitable. This is said by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, in his address. And he says that separately, addressing to Russian soldiers that are now in Ukraine, Russian conscripts. He said that they have chance, when they come to Ukraine, they will have one chance if they surrender. Let's listen to Ukrainian President.
Я хочу сказать российским солдатам, тем, которые уже зашли на нашу землю и которых еще только собираются отправить воевать против нас. Российские срочники, послушайте меня особенно внимательно. Российские офицеры, вы-то все уже поняли. У Украины вы ничего не заберете. Вы будете забирать жизни. Вас очень много. Но и вашу тоже заберут. Но ради чего вам погибать и зачем? Я знаю, что вы хотите выжить. Мы слышим в перехватах ваших разговоров, что вы на самом деле думаете об этой войне, об этом позоре и о своем государстве. Ваши разговоры друг с другом, ваши звонки домой родным, мы слышим все это. Мы делаем выводы, мы знаем, кто вы такие. Поэтому я предлагаю вам выбор. От имени украинского народа мы даем вам шанс выжить. Если сдадитесь нашим силам, мы будем обращаться с вами так, как и положено обращаться с людьми. Именно с людьми, достойно. Как с вами не обращались в вашей армии. И как ваша армия не обращается с нашей.
And now we have good news from Bankova. According to the advisor of the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, Alexei Orestovich, he said that even if Russia has concentrated numerous airstriking forces around main Ukrainian cities, it fails to launch the massive offense. Let's see what the advisor said.
Як ви бачите, вже десь третю добу.
As you can see, we have good news. As you can see, for about the third day now, the enemy has been trying not to use its aircrafts against Kyiv, Kharkiv, Sumy and Mykolaiv, or uses it to a limited extent. Why? This should be explained. In general, the enemy has gathered around us 500 of his combat aircraft, but Russian aviation is not capable of conducting complex air operations. It takes many years of training and lots of money, which they don't have. Airstrikes were carried out by single aircraft, 2 aircrafts, with a maximum of 4 to 6 aircrafts. So the armed forces have already shot down 83 aircrafts.
And now we're joined in our air by our first expert. This is Volodymyr Dubovik. He is a director of a Center for International Studies in Odessa. My greetings to you, Volodymyr.
Hello, good to be here.
And thanks for coming here. And we now come to the international politics. Recently, US Presidential National Security Advisor Jack Sullivan warned China against any military or economic aid to Russia, after Russia has actually asked for this. And next question is, may this even happen? What this really means for the world, for Ukraine, and for the ongoing pace of the invasion?
Well, first of all, I hope that Chinese would not do it. There are many different options for Beijing. None of them is really good. First option is to side completely with Russia and provide them with massive support, and that would really put them under Western sanctions. and really cast China in a really bad light in terms of public opinion around the world. Second option is to stay kind of neutral and maybe provide some symbolic assistance to Russia, maybe even give them some economic assistance, but not weapons. And finally, to come up on Ukraine's side and basically say what Russia is doing in Ukraine is invasion, is war, and we're against it. So there could be other options too, but I think that they are kind of leaning towards this middle option when they would basically say rhetorically that they call everyone to cease fire. They would probably help Russia with buying some of its oil and gas, perhaps provide some of the goods that are now technologies that are now forbidden to be given to Russia by the West. But at the same time, they wouldn't provide Russia with massive military assistance. They're already unhappy about this war. They already felt pretty, tricked and cheated by Russians, because apparently Putin promised Chinese leader when they met before the Olympics that it would be a bloodless, quick military operation, very limited in scope. And instead, it's a huge, massive war with a lot of, victims among civilians as well. And China is not happy, and the world is on the edge of deep economic crisis, which is also terrible news to China. So I hope that they would kind of stay on the fence, as they say, sit on the fence, maybe providing some rhetorical assistance to Russia, limited assistance, but not massive assistance as they have requested.
Thank you for your answer. And we all know that right now there is an ongoing talks about the probable peace, or we all hope that once this war will end, ending with obviously some diplomatic decision, and this will be a peaceful treaty. But what is the chance of this peaceful treaty right now, and what's the actual role of United States in this process?
Well, right now, U.S.'s role in negotiations is limited, but their role in helping Ukraine and punishing Russia is huge. And both of these two things, they are really meaningful in terms of future negotiations. Every day of Ukrainian troops fighting heroically and not giving up increases chances for successful negotiations for Ukrainian side. We are not ready for any capitulation. We're not ready for any massive concessions. There could be some concessions here and there, what Russia might want to hear from us, but nothing massive. And of course, the precondition would be for them to leave and withdraw the troops from Ukraine. What kind of concessions? First of all, Zelensky keeps saying it, and I think he said it again at some occasion, that he believes that Ukraine would not be a member of NATO, at least anytime soon. That's exactly what Russians want to hear. They actually wanted a big permanent neutrality treaty signed by everyone, and that Ukraine would forever reject the idea of joining NATO even in the distant future. That is probably not going to happen, and NATO said they're not going to do this, and Ukraine said it's not going to do that. But Zelensky might actually say publicly that we're not going towards NATO membership anytime soon. That would put him in a difficult situation because, of course, our constitution dictates us movement towards NATO membership. But anything else, like recognizing Crimea part of Russia, don't think is going to happen. Recognizing independence of Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, probably not. We'll see. The most difficult question now is if there is a ceasefire, how lasting it would be. Would Russian troops really withdraw? Wouldn't Russians say, okay, do your concessions and then we'll withdraw? And then, of course, our Ukrainian side was supposed to say, no, actually, you go first. You withdraw your troops, and better even pay us compensation for the destruction you caused in our country. And then we would probably deliver something what you want. But we'll see. Negotiations are not going to go any easy. I mean, all mediators have been basically rejected, be it Chancellor Scholz or President Macron. Our Israeli Prime Minister is involved, Mr. Bennett, but it's pretty much going to be Moscow to Kiev talk. And if Moscow starting this war was hoping that would mean that they're going to have the upper hand, the massive advantage over Ukraine, After more than 2 weeks of this war, we now see that there is no massive advantage. Yes, we're still struggling. We are having people killed, and their troops are within our territory. But it's definitely not the situation that when they were hoping to have in terms of dictating Ukraine's some conditions and some points or items for surrender. That's not going to happen.
That's the best news ever for this time. And actually, yeah, Ukrainian defense forces are real rock on this. And I wish you the good times coming. Thank you very much for being here with us for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
And meanwhile, Russia continues shelling Ukrainian cities. Even now, Russian Federation makes real criminal offense here in Ukraine. The State Emergency Service of Ukraine within the day carried out more than 300 operations to eliminate the consequences of the shelling. I mean, this is over 300 destroyed houses all over the Ukraine that were shelled and that were hit by Russian airstrikers. 90 times experts of the agency were summoned to eliminate explosive remnants. Over these 2 weeks, over 20 days of the war, 97 Ukrainian children have been killed since the invasion started. Russian missiles hit indiscriminately. And more on the losses, on our Ukrainian losses, see in the next story.
Destroyed houses, burning buildings and ruins. This morning in capital of Ukraine, Kiev. At night, the city was bombed. Russians attacked several districts at once. In Podilsky, the enemy shell hit a 10-story building. The apartments from the 1st to the 5th floor were ruined. One person was hurt, and in the Svetoshino district, shells hit 2 high-rise buildings. 2 people died, 27 were rescued.
The situation is very difficult. 14 units are working on the spot, as well as 52 people from the personal staff. How many people remain in the house is still unknown. Rescuers try to put out the fire and look for victims.
The blast wave also damaged the facade of the Lukyanevska metro station. In Rubizhne, the Luhansk region, as a result of shelling, a boarding school for children, a city hospital and 3 schools were destroyed. 4 people died. Mykolaiv was also shelled last night.
There were
shellings, but at the moment I don't understand the exact location of damages. But I feel that the residents of Mykolaiv are getting used to shelling and start ignoring the imaginary danger. As for now, everything is calm.
Russian troops and several missiles fired Kharkiv. Fires were in the center all night. Under the shelling there were shops and ordinary high-rise buildings. 7 people dead. The rubble and eliminate the consequences of yesterday's airstrike on Ochtyrka continue to dismantle. Several residential buildings were completely ruined. 3 people were killed.
We were bombed, like every night. We have been bombed by airplanes and rockets, funerals left behind.
In Rivne, as a result of shelling to a TV tower, 19 people died, 9 people were injured. Reported by Pavlo Shtelmach, UATV News.
Now we're joined in our air by the historian and political expert Łukasz Adamski. My greetings to Polish friends.
Good evening.
Good evening. Our first question is about recently the prime ministers of Czech Republic, Poland and Slovenia announced that they are going to come to Kiev. This was announced by the representative by the chief of the chancellor of the Polish cabinet. Partly this visit is kept secret, or the details are kept secret. But what this indicates for?
Firstly, it is a huge, enormous gesture of political solidarity. I think everybody understands that such a trip in conditions of war poses a threat to even to personal security of Polish Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister and the Prime Ministers of Czech Republic and Slovenia. So this is a sign of moral support, of political support. definitely details of this visit have been kept secret, but rumors say that Morawiecki and his colleagues should announce in Kiev at the press conference certain important political messages for Ukrainian society. So let's see and let's wait what they will say. But anyway, even the very fact that such a visit takes place is I would say of enormous importance for Ukraine, for Central and Eastern Europe. This is a political solidarity with Ukrainian nations.
So it was said that this visit was organized in consultations with European chiefs, the President of European Council, Charles Michel, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. So does it mean that we should foresee new sanctions against Russia after this visit announced? Maybe, or not?
I don't know. I don't know, since political sanctions can be also announced in at a different forum. I would say that if I should predict here, that I would say that it is a rather this visit and this place where conference will take place in Kiev is rather an occasion to say something about prospects of European integration of Ukraine. The war will end. Putin will be defeated. I don't know whether it will be in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months. But Russia will lose this war. But Ukraine will need enormous financial means for reconstruction. And then also Ukraine will need a huge political appetite to be recognized as a not only as a candidate for EU membership, but also in terms of launching negotiation with the EU. This real negotiation. So it needs political support also in the Western Europe. So if I should predict something, then I would say you should rather expect a political message what the future of Ukraine and the EU should look like.
Thank you. And you know, as a historian, once this war will end, and it will definitely end with Ukrainian victory, and what will be the long-term political and cultural consequences of this war for Russia? What's your take on it?
So my take is that Russia is getting to be a neo-totalitarian country. Russia was a country with consolidated authoritarianism till the end of the last year, but now what is happening in Russia reminds a worse tradition of the Soviet Union under Stalin or North Korea. I do believe that Russian elites and society, this smarter part of society, will understand that or have already understood that. So I will not predict a long-term rules of Putin. It is simply impossible under such sanctions to keep a stability in Russia. In future, I think every next Russian leader, be it a democratic leader or be it a member of current Putin's elite, will try to somehow to loosen sanctions and to return Russia to the path of civilized nations. But what I cannot say is when it exactly, of course, happened. But no, the fact that Russia will lose sooner or later, it's absolutely obvious, and it will need then application of the principle which once was applied towards the post-war Germany, 4D. Then demilitarization, democratization, deputinization, and deimperialization of the Russian Federation.
So we pray for this, really. But right now, Russian propaganda, and this is another question to you, Russian propaganda tries to depict not full story about what is happening in Poland. Many refugees are on their way to Polish cities, and hundreds of thousands are already hosted in the welcoming cities. But Russian propaganda tries to spoil this, saying that actually nobody waits for Ukrainian refugees in Poland. And what is a real, and as you are the representative of Polish, you are in our broadcast right now, you can say what you have seen by yourself, by your own eye.
No, I have in my own flat 2 refugees, and by the way, it's also refugees which once had to flee from Donetsk. So we have, under current estimation, 1.7 million refugees. The whole public administration is trying to help those people. They will they are getting social benefits. Also, they can count on shelter, perhaps some flats. Polish government will also pay Polish people who are hosting Ukrainian refugees subsidies to facilitate this support. Then you can observe, of course, also a huge solidarity of Polish people with Ukrainian refugees, and everybody actually who is now in Poland can see manifestations of those solidarity. Ukrainian flags. Possibilities to receive right or permission to travel free by Polish trains, by Polish buses, also school for or kindergartens for Ukrainian children. But I think even more credible than my own testimony would be, I think, testimonies of those 100,000 Ukrainian refugees who are saying what I'm also saying to their family members remaining in Ukraine, to foreign journalists, to foreign correspondents. Poland is now a huge hub, logistic and hub, and huge humanitarian hub for Ukrainians, and I would not care about Russian propaganda so much as this propaganda actually cannot reach neither Ukrainian people nor Polish people nor even now most Russophile segments of Western society. What Putin did on 24th February was a huge blow to all possible stretch of Russophile circles in Western Europe, also among journalists. So now Russian propaganda can work only for domestic publics.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adam. And excuse me. And I just want Mr. Lukasz. And I just wanted to send you my best greetings and thank you for your personal act, for your hostage of Ukrainian, that you are hosting Ukrainian refugees at your own place. Thank you very much. And now I just want to go to the next news. That is actually very terrible. And right now we just have the confirmed information that one more foreign journalist died in the course of hostilities in Ukraine. Fox News TV cameraman Pierre Zakrevsky and Ukrainian journalist Alexandra Koshinova died as a result of artillery fire from the Russian military. This was confirmed by the advisor to the Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, Anton Gerashchenko. This is terrible news. And we again call for all international society to see what is happening right now in Ukraine. This is directly what happened due to the ongoing situation. And right now, we also want to show you what is happening in the Parliament Assembly of Ukraine, where where right now was discussed the question of exclusion of Russian Federation from the Council of Europe. Let's listen the speech by Evgenia Kravchuk in the meeting hall.
Well, when you be speaking here, I will be getting messages from my phone. Ukraine is on air alert again. What does it mean? It means that my 8-year-old daughter is in the basement right now. It means that my husband is fighting near Kyiv not to let Russians into the capital of Ukraine. Today in PACE, we need to send a very, very strong signal that Russian Federation cannot be part of this organization, Council of Europe, anymore, because it became country terrorist. Only terrorists are targeting civilians, bombing peaceful cities. 2,357. Do you know what is this number? It's the number of confirmed killed people in just one city of Mariupol. It's in Donetsk region. Mariupol hasn't had a proper green corridor yet. Even food and water is not allowed to be brought to the city. And we're speaking a lot about green corridors, but just think why we need these green corridors. Because bombs and missiles are flying from the skies to kill our people. That's why I'm addressing you not only as PACE members, but as members of national parliaments. Because you can influence your governments and to help us to defend our air, to put more air defense systems, to end this slaughter.
Recently, US President Joe Biden said that US support to Ukraine is unwavering, and this is a clear signal to Russia and the whole world. And one more example about this is the field hospital that was recently deployed in Lviv by American medics to help their Ukrainian colleagues. Medical care in such a hospital is available around the clock. Our correspondent Julia Bill will tell you more.
In the underground parking, American doctors organized a field hospital near Lviv. In war conditions, they will provide free medical care to everyone who needs it.
Come about.
We are ready for everyone who will come to provide assistance and operate. We have surgery as well as traumatology and orthopedics. You must understand, we are here to help everyone who needs. We don't know what will happen next. We are here to meet these needs.
The field hospital was organized by the international non-governmental humanitarian organization Samaritan's Purse. Here you can get emergency and surgical care, outpatient services. Special places for childbirth are also set up.
So once we understood that there would be a need here, we respond to natural disasters, man-made disasters, as well as conflict. And once we understood that there would be a conflict and there would be a need for civilians being treated, we knew that we had to respond. We typically, once we know there's a need and a response, we can have our hospital up in our own airplanes within 24 hours, and we can be on the ground within 48 hours. Once we're on the ground, typically it will take 24 to 48 hours, and we can have a full functioning field hospital up and running.
The hospital can accept 60 patients at the same time. The team consists of about 100 medical workers. Some of them already have experience in Iraq.
From our standpoint, we're willing to go wherever we need to go to help people. So while we prefer that there be peace and not a conflict, we'll go wherever we have to in the name of Jesus, and we'll do it without fear.
So far, Lviv hospitals are coping with the patients, but if there are more, then such field hospital will become a help for Ukrainian doctors.
It makes it possible to respond to the number of requests, and if at one time there are significantly more requests, then we have another chance to help people in time.
It will be possible to receive medical care around the clock in such a hospital. A field hospital in Yavoriv will also start operating this week. It will be organized by Israeli doctors. Reported by Marina Stepanenko, Julia Bill, Vadim Dmitriev, Lviv, UATV News.
And another one, breaking news right now from the front line, is doctors and patients of a regional intensive care hospital in Mariupol were taken hostage by Russian occupants. A representative of the medical personnel managed to send the following message, and I will read it for you here. Nobody can leave the hospital. There is shootings and shelling everywhere. We are staying in the hospital cellar. No car can approach to the hospital, and this situation has not changed for 2 days. The multi-story houses around the hospital are on fire. Russians have forced over 400 people from the nearest residential areas sitting in the hospital, and we are not allowed to leave. So here are one of the brazen examples of what is going on right now in the besieged Mariupol. And as a reminder, I just want to say you that Mariupol is in ongoing siege by Russian forces from all sides around already for 2 weeks. And now we go for another story that our team prepared for you, and this is about the Ukrainian economy. Excuse me. And I wanted to say you first that recently our Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal, stated that Ukrainian economic and tax system that exists in peacetime just cannot be an answer for the challenges that Ukraine faced right now. And this means that Ukrainian business has to turn to martial law reality. And the close cooperation with the president, with people's deputies, the Ukrainian cabinet completely reformatting the economic model of Ukraine. One of the largest logistics companies right now is delivering hundreds of humanitarian cargoes for civilians and army daily. And this is one of the examples of how the Ukrainian economy turns to new reality. Let's see the story.
The war in Ukraine forced the whole business industry to work in a new reality. Thus, one of the largest logistics companies has switched to a military footing and delivers hundreds of humanitarian goods for the civilian population, the Ukrainian army, and the defense units.
90% of customers today take goods from warehouses for humanitarian aid to the armed forces of Ukraine. Therefore, everything we do is within the framework of martial law. Accordingly, this is not a commercial activity. We do not take money for this. 3 or 4 days ago, we started calling drivers and warehouse workers. Who has the opportunity to start going to work? The economy must work.
Humanitarian aid from other countries is also being delivered. In Kazakhstan, the company in its warehouses, together with local public organizations, formed the Center of Assistance to Ukraine. Medicines, food, goods for children and money are transferred there.
24 containers have already been delivered. From there, we are Poland. Also, people in Kazakhstan bring money. There are about €500,000, which were also transferred to the needs of the armed forces of Ukraine. You know, not only Ukrainians, but also Kazakhstan people help and bring everything that they can, including humanitarian aid.
Many Ukrainian cafes and restaurants have now turned into field kitchens. The owners, together with the team, prepare food for free for the defense units, the Ukrainian army and civilians. Even the world-famous catering establishments distribute everything for the need of Ukrainians. By the way, the KFC opened kitchens to cook for Ukrainian defenders. Ukrainian designers and brands are now sewing fleece balaclavas, thermal underwear, body armor and berets instead of fashion outfits for free. They take money from those who are not indifferent and only to purchase the materials. Every Ukrainian business is forced to rebuild in order not to lose income, save jobs and raise the country's economy. During martial law, the government created a special package of assistance to businesses and employees. The state has also already implemented a business evacuation program, which allows owners to move their businesses out of the war zone. Reported by Marina Stepanenko, Vlada Tsurkan, UATV News.
We are continuing to deliver the relevant news and the most truthful news for our international audience. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has stated that the need to find a way for effective security guarantees for Ukraine is not doubted. We need to look for effective guarantees for us, for our skies, and we will not abandon it. We need aircraft. We need to continue to talk about this. I will continue to pursue this. We need long-term security guarantees for the state, for all Ukrainians, but concrete things, special guarantee, legally binding, so that there is no doubt about them. This is what President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, said in his video message on Tuesday. And now we come for another news and for another stories prepared for you about the Russian crimes made by their army in the eastern Ukraine. Russian troops continue shelling Severodonetsk. This is the city in the eastern Ukraine. Over the past few days, the destruction has become so great that there are no longer enough emergency workers in the city. Explosions can still be heard, and my colleague Anastasia Volkova knows how the situation goes in the city right now.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Анастасия Волкова, я корреспондентка телеканала «Дом».
March 14th, 2022, 19th day of war. Last night in Severodonetsk was relatively calm. At the moment, one can hear the explosions on the outskirts. There is fighting for the city. Behind me, you can see the ruined building. Yesterday, it was a kindergarten. The troops of the Russian Federation destroyed it with heavy artillery. It is no longer repairable. It needs to be completely restored. Not far from me are residential buildings that were left without windows and even roofs. People have no gas, no water, no light, there is no heat. I was able to talk to the caretaker of this kindergarten, and he told me what happened. At the time, there were no people in the basements, but a week ago there were 12.
It fell on the 9th room and blew up at 2nd. Almost everything is ruined. There is nothing to repair. Where I live, yesterday morning the windows flew out in the kitchen, in the hall, on a balcony. I'm on the 1st floor, so in the morning we got up and repaired the windows with something. We didn't even eat since the evening. Later a fire wait. We make some soup.
In many parts of the city there is no light, no water, no heat. People are forced to cook food on the streets near their houses. People are grouped, they find firewood to cook food. I talked to 2 pensioners who were just making soup near their house.
We have some water, soap in a pot. It was cooked when there was gas. We store it on the balcony and now we will give it to everyone who needs. What about firewood? I had some on the balcony, someone found it. You know, we must survive, stop bombing, and we will rebuild everything. There is nothing to cook, we can't charge the phone, there is no connection.
На сегодня Северодонецк держит оборону.
Today Severodonetsk is holding the defense line. We thank the armed forces of Ukraine who do not surrender, but the battle continues and it brings severe destructions. During these 15 days, thousands of Severodonetsk residents suffered. I have seen many try to leave the city, but more of them stay because they believe that peace will come soon.
Every day Russian propaganda creates new fakes about Ukraine, and let's just remember one of it, about the alleged shelling of the kindergarten in the Stanitsa Luhanska. But then, after the Russian propagandists made a trauma face, saying that it was shelled by Ukrainian forces, after a few days, it turned out that this was a Ukrainian kindergarten shelled by Russian forces, and it was confirmed on the international level. This is just one of the examples. Another one is a chemical weapon, and let's watch what Bankova says, the office of the president says about Russian propaganda and fakes.
Good afternoon, friends. A traditional briefing based on the results of analysis of fakes spread by Russian propaganda in the context of their war against Ukraine. One of them is the creation of an illusion about the alleged support of the local population for their occupational actions. In particular, attempts to create the Kherson People's Republic, the so-called republic which will bring only grief and misfortune to Ukrainian lands, as well as the creation of certain prerequisites for effective referendums. Here it is only necessary to repeat the official position of the Ukrainian authorities, that any initiatives regarding the so-called referendums, fictional sessions of local councils, distribution of passports in the occupied cities, be it Kherson, Okakhovka, Genichinsk, are absolutely miserable attempts. And when the Russian troops leave the territory of Ukraine, and this will definitely happen, all collaborators will be prosecuted in accordance with the Criminal Code of Ukraine.
Now we are joined here with our third expert, and this is the namely member of the Parliament of Ukraine, our guest in here, Evgenia Kravchuk. My greetings to you.
Greetings to you as well. Greeting you from the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe in Strasbourg.
Greetings to you also. We've just seen an incredible speech that you've just delivered in the Parliament Assembly of the Council of Europe, where the question discussed about the Russian possible exclusion from the Parliament Assembly. So what's the latest updates on it?
We will vote on the resolution that says that the members of Parliamentary Assembly do not see any, possibilities to keep Russia in Council of Europe anymore. So it will happen in 2 hours. And actually, we already saw the statement of Russian, I could probably say now former head of delegation of Russia to PACE, Pyotr Tolstoy, saying that Russia will withdraw from Council of Europe. Basically, what they do, just they try to avoid the humiliation. But we are determined, and all other countries are determined to vote this resolution anyway. So there is a clear signal to Russia that this country is not welcomed in this international organization anymore.
So, from what I understand just right now, that Russia is trying to make a guess that allegedly this decision is not the forced expulsion of Russian Federation from the Parliament Assembly, right?
Yes, it's not only expulsion from Parliamentary Assembly, it's the expulsion from the whole Council of Europe, from all the organs of Council of Europe, Committee of the Ministers, Venice Commission, the European Court for Human Rights, every organization that is in infrastructure of Council of Europe. Of course, they want to explain to Russians inside the country that it's Russia, is going out. But we all know that the other countries do not want to see country terrorists together with them at one table.
And what's your take on the next? President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, speaking at the meeting of the leaders of state of the Joint Expeditionary Force, said that Ukraine had heard that it would not join NATO member states, but the Ukrainian people are beginning to understand this and rely on themselves. And what's your take on this? If you probably heard what Volodymyr Zelensky said on the question of Ukraine NATO question and possible joining NATO in future, and what are the next steps of Ukrainian delegation in the international arena?
Well, you see, why we were talking about NATO so much and actually wanted to join. It's because of the security guarantees that this organization gives us. But if this organization doesn't want to see us among their members, because I want to remind that the decision has to be taken by all of the countries that are members of NATO, and we feel that there are some countries who are not ready to vote for Ukraine to be in this in NATO. So what we need security guarantees. If there is going to be another organization, I don't know, backed by Great Britain, for example, probably we can discuss this possibility as well. Because why we need these security guarantees? We already had this Budapest memorandum signed in 1994, and they put the assurances, and it was violated by Russia, who also signed the Budapest memorandum. Now we have something, strong, was having to be absolutely sure that Ukraine will not ever in its history be in such situation as war of aggression from Russia, because we never know what happens I don't know, in the year or 2 years, who knows.
So it may be said that Russia is just taking advantage of not binding status of that memorandum. So now we need new guarantees that will take this status, binding legal status. And another question to you is, what will happen now when the situation unfolding in such a way that Russia is expelled from the big international organization, and some experts even say that this actually undermines the situation when now the Convention on Human Rights won't be observed in Russia.
Well, it's no longer observed in Russia. They never observed it during Putin's regime. And when we speak about the European Court of Human Rights, they do not deliver, they do not do what the European Court of Human Rights demands. Remember, 2 years ago, they amended their constitution saying that all inner legislation and inner decisions are higher than international. So look at the Yuko's case, Navalny case. There are a lot of numerous the European Court of Human Rights decisions that Russia doesn't carry. They do not carry about this convention. The only thing that can provide a better access to to rule of law in Russia is changing the position that government takes. It's the problem of government that violates human rights also in Russia as well.
That's interesting. And another question to you. Thank you for being with us here, first of all. Another question to you is, we all know that right now Ukrainian and Russian delegations are in talks over the possible ceasefire in Ukraine. And do you have this communication between Ukrainian delegations somehow? And maybe you have some insights about this process. Of course, ones that will be peaceful for us.
We do communicate with the head of our faction of our party in the parliament, David Arahami, but I'm not, I'm not official speaker of our negotiation team. So it's better to have comments from the speakers and from the members of this negotiation team. But what I am sure of 100% that they will stay on the basis, of territorial integrity of Ukraine, and they will fight for the best possible agreement that is for Ukraine. And of course, in every negotiations, the position is crucial where you start these negotiations. Look how it was at the very beginning. The Russians would be telling, "Oh well, yeah, we'll start negotiations, but you need to, put all the arms and disarm your army." And we said, "No, we're not gonna do it." And then negotiations started without anything to give in to Russians. Well, at least we have a few days of humanitarian corridors that are working due to these negotiations. So it's not working as we wanted because Russians they shoot these corridors, and for example in Mariupol the situation is still close to humanitarian catastrophe because they would not let the food and water to be delivered to Mariupol. And only people who have private transportation could leave, and that's not the numbers that we wanted to do, because actually Mariupol is almost the city that was erased from the face of the earth. And actually, I delivered in my speech, I shocked the members of assembly by one single number. And that was just a number of deaths only in Mariupol. Only in one Mariupol, more than 2,000 people were killed by Russian army. And of course, we need to ensure that all of the people who want to leave such cities, they have the possibility.
This is the devastating number. I just wanted to say this, namely the over 2,000 civilians in Mariupol. Again, reiterating this information for our audience, and also as I know that you were journalists in your it was your career also, and is probably now also, along with your functions as a politician. And what your personal take on the recent breaking news about the death of Fox News TV cameraman Pierre Zakrevsky and Ukrainian journalist on the front due to the artillery fire launched by Russian military. And this information was recently confirmed by the Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine.
Well, I want to say my sincere condolences to the family of these journalists. And journalists are doing a great, big, and very important job because they are eyes of this war. We, of course, we understand that Russia will not show any of the the real news that are in Ukraine with this war of aggression, but at least the other part of the world will see what's going on and what war crimes are being committed every day by Russian Federation. And I already spoke with the head of the media office of Council of Europe. He deals with media projects, Patrick Pennings, and he is aware of these deaths of journalists. And we are also thinking what else Council of Europe can do to help covering, the coverage of Ukrainian news. And also they promised to give some additional finance for public broadcaster of Ukraine.
And from us, we would also send you these words. Thank you very much for what you are doing, and all Ukrainian delegation does in the Council of Europe. As Ukrainian journalists and also Ukrainian politicians, now we both are doing the same. This is our joint effort for the whole world. And thank you very much for this broad commentary in our air.
Thank you.
And for now, this is all for you from Ukraine, from the heart of the Europe. This was UA English broadcast. Thank you for being with us during this hour. Good evening. Goodbye.